Hi, I'm Landscaper, and this is the Wannabe Composer series. Coffee, needed, as always. Okay, so we finished the Sweet Science of Bruising. It's about to go on stage this weekend, which we're very excited about. All the music's been tested, it's been run, we've had lots of different notes. Sort of share this little spreadsheet with you again. You can see some of the tracks have been repurposed for other things, moved about, adapted. The director left a whole bunch of notes in here, which you can see, which we've then gone on, worked with, changed. And then I basically updated the final spreadsheet to show that everything is pretty much done on my end. There's one other artist who's finishing stuff this weekend, and that's down to him. And once he's done, that's it. So everything's done. So there you go. So the spreadsheet was really useful to communicate what was working, what was in what stage, what needed this, what needed that, etc, etc. Anyway, so there you go. So that's that done. So what I thought I'd do today is take you through the overture, and there's 51 pieces that have been written, 5 of which were not mine, but all the rest have been done over the past 3 months we've been working on this project. And I've now got to the curtain call, the finale, which needs to be quite big. It wants to incorporate all the instruments that have been the themes throughout the whole show. It's so important how people leave a show. It's a really weird thing, like in the brain, even if the middle, you think about this like when you watch movies or if you dig at a theatre or whatever. If the beginning's strong, it pulls you in, right, and then you're immersed. It's perfect. If the end is strong, the sensation you get when you leave is that you really enjoyed it, you really experienced something. You want to tell other people about it, you want to share that experience, blah, blah, blah. And that is so important, even if, this doesn't, but even if the middle, gets a little bit slow. You'll watch a TV series, right, and they'll fill, like, the middle 3 episodes of 9 will be kind of like story filler, they'll be a bit slow. But you go along with that because the initial impact, the initial draw in of the beginning was good. And then as long as the end concludes well, you'll think, oh, that whole thing was brilliant, right? So it's really important that you get the ending nice and powerful and good, and people feel like they're walking away from something they've really enjoyed. It just reinforces that. So I'm going to talk you through this in a minute. I'm not literally going to sit here for a minute, that'd be weird. But first, my plan is to do another video after this, even though this will be the kind of last one in this little series, just to show you how I put tracks then up for sale, publish them. So because all my work is my work, and no one, unless they want to, no one signed a contract to purchase this stuff outright, I still own all of the copyright. So I can effectively do what I like with it. And my hope is to kind of monetize this work in other ways. So after I've completed this, because there's 51 tracks, I'm not going to do a kind of show album of 51 tracks. What I will do is I'll bring in all of the audio mixdowns, and then I'll separate them into like sections. So a bit that covers the first 5 scenes or whatever, etc, etc. And then I'll put that out as, say, a 10 track album, so it'd be 5 parts per track. And then I'll upload that online, various platforms, Apple, Amazon, etc, etc, YouTube, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. But I'll take you through it another time. Okay, so we're going to go through the overture. So we're going to go through the finale. So I'm just going to portion off the initial bit. So what I've got in the very opening, no music. Again, at this point you're hoping, crowd cheering, clapping, etc, etc. I've got a big impact kick that comes in. Okay. It's not got a lot of weight to it. The other thing I've noticed in the theatre itself is that the bass and the acoustics inside the theatre carry quite a lot of weight and quite a lot of sound. Ideally, you'd want to sit there with the EQ of the mixing desk in situ to get the best out of it there, but that isn't my job. That's down to the sound guys who are running it, so they'll probably do that. But what I wanted to do was steer a little bit clear of too much weight, too much bass in any of those sounds for their benefit, really. Okay, so you got that. Then I've got a little crowd sound. Now hopefully that will be slightly drowned out by the real audience who are cheering and clapping. But either which way, it's going to help give a little momentum. And it was a sound that has been used in the show to bolster that kind of feel, right? So then we've got a little cymbal cuts in. Okay. A little reverse splash into splash, very soft and gentle, again to give that impact. And then we've brought in a couple of punches. So if you've watched the overture, you see that I basically took a bunch of punch sounds, some from the cast themselves. I got the recordings sent over to me, and I used those as a kind of rhythm to get the whole overture started, which worked really well. So I thought I'm going to include a little bit of that, just a little nod to that in the beginning. Then we've got one of the actors screams as she gets knocked out, and I thought it'd be quite nice to use that in here. I mean, to me, it almost sounds like the sort of scream of like an 8-bit game boss going down, you know, at the end of Streets of Rage or something like that. But anyway, I kind of liked it. I thought it was a good, nice touch. So I've dropped that in, and everyone seems happy with it, so why not? And then we've got the round bell, not round bell, you know, like boxing rounds bell. So put those little bits together as a standard kind of like 2-bar intro bit prior to any of the orchestration coming in. So you can see over here on the mixing tab that we've got all our own little plugins. Every track's got its own EQs, plugins, various things set to it, levels set, all that kind of stuff. So it's all been kind of mixed. And there's also a master stereo out. So the next thing that cuts in is the pipe organ. Very Phantom of the Opera. Ba 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 ba. I don't do that. Although I don't not do something similar. Anyway, that wasn't the inspiration for that, I can assure you. Then I've also brought in a set of drums here that will come in after the pipe organ, and you can see perhaps in the MIDI part here that I've done a real like a set of stairs, right? That's an escalator as a run-in to the kind of start of the whole thing. And we've got a few other instruments that cut in as well at this beginning point here. So to make this slightly easier to see, visualise and understand, I've got rid of all of the MIDI parts and just left the audio, so it's a little bit simpler rather than the doubling up. Okay, so we were at the bass and the cello coming in here, the pipe organ doing its escalator thing, and then we'll bring in a little violin just after that. Got some automation here, the pipe organ slowly going down in volume, a little bit of reverb tail in there as well. Here come the horns. Let's drop in everybody so you can hear how it comes in. So quite a lot going on. Quite difficult to mix and get the space for everything. I'm just going to show you quickly what each individual thing within inside that loop is. So I'm just going to start from the top. Got cellos. Just doing a little nice round. Nice round loop. Then we bring the violins. And the bass. I mean, you can tell I'm a keyboard player and not a bassist. Flute doesn't do an awful lot, to be fair. Nice. Sometimes in orchestras, right, you see that. It's like Strauss. Strauss II does this. He'll have a whole like 6-7 minute piece, and the triangle guy, you can imagine, just sat there reading through his manuscript. Ting! He plays it like 3 times. Anyway, Strauss has got a sense of humour, I reckon. So the oboes, again, not super amounts going on. Just a bolster. So the woodwind stuff, we're using East-West Platinum, which I've gone through in some of the other videos, where you can change the style of play using the keyboard. Very useful, and these are some of the kind of little effects that they've put on, playing effects. Then we've got the trumpets, quite subtle. They're one of those ones that sound slightly weird on their own, but within the mix. Then the French horns, nice and powerful. And you can hear that little trill that I've put in there. That little trill that we've just stuck in for a bit of effect. Then we got the trombones. Low. Not doing loads again, but so kind of just marking the end of each bar. Then we have got the pipe organ, which again, I've just used the pipe organ as a kind of almost like a solo instrument, to add a bit of something. And I've put some automation on that as well, as I mentioned just before, so it has a little bit of reverb that kicks in and fades out. Drums I've used, I'm going to show you actually. So for the drums, I've used a contact library called Empire Breaks, which is great. I really like it. You can do some really good lo-fi stuff with this, but they just have lots of little sequences on here, right? And they're all programmed to different keys, so they do a slightly different sequence, so you can mix them up when you're playing. Really nice sounds, but lo-fi kind of. I'm sure you could do other breaks and various things with that. So here we go. So you mixed it slightly differently. And that's just rolling through. So the big kick we've gone through, the sound effects we've all gone through already, so you don't need to know about those. So the general kind of rule of thumb really is that you want to, or at least I want to, write a piece that is around about a minute is roughly how long the cast are going to come on stage and do their bows, right? So the rest is kind of filler a little bit. So you've got to make sure you kind of get to the point you want to get to before that minute's out, and you kind of want to peak around that point. That's kind of how I do it. So, God damn it. Hello? It's definitely not a call from Amazon Shopping, is it, you liars? Such a load of tosh. Don't know why I answered it. So I feel I've done that. I feel like we've got to our point. So if you see, it's now 46 seconds here. I'm pointing at the screen. You can't see my finger. It makes no difference. 46 seconds here. And at this point where I feel like it's probably the point where they're going to start going off stage, depending on how it's received. If it's received really well, they may stay on a little bit longer. And then it's basically down to the sound guy to make the call as to when to start fading out. But I've then written another, you can see, another minute and 20 seconds on, in case it goes the distance. And all I've done is a tiny little bit of variation here and there. You can see I've put some automation in so that parts fade out near the end. I've dropped the French horn for one section just to give a bit of variety. And I've got the pipe organ doing, again, pointing at the screen like an idiot. I've got a pipe organ here, you can kind of see in this track, doing various different little solo kind of things. Here, there and everywhere. The idea being almost like a bit of a freestyle kind of Victorian key signature. I'm just going to play this end bit. So the idea being, sorry, I just looped around then. The idea being, if it does run its course, it has an end to it. I'm just going to chat very briefly about the positioning. So if you see on, in fact, does this make this larger? It does make it larger. Let's do it. Not quite got everybody in, but for all intents and purposes, that's probably enough. What hopefully you'll see here, I'm only really interested in this little bit, is how I've panned the orchestra. In an earlier video I did chat about going online, finding an image of an orchestra so you can see where the orchestra, where all the players sit, and then mapping everything out so that it feels like you could be listening to an orchestra in situ. That's the idea. There's certain things you want to keep kind of mono, like drums, certain other things that you might want to keep central. Buses I keep central as well, so if all of the strings are in the same bus, that bus will stay central because I've already panned all the strings prior to it going to the bus. And the same obviously with your stereo output needs to remain central as well, unless you're doing it in mono specifically. You might be. So here we are. So all the little panners for all the different instruments are there. And the last thing I'm just going to show you here is the VSX headphones. Very good, have improved mixing no end for me. It is like you are sitting in a sound studio in the booth right here. I don't wake my kid up next door when he's asleep. Brilliant, perfect, nice and comfy as well. So I use Spitfire audio, so obviously a lot of the stuff that I write with is Spitfire audio based orchestral stuff. They also do a whole load of other labs and various things that are really great for modern composing, for TV and stuff like that. But anyway, this is their room. You can choose from 3 different sets of speakers. You've got your near fields, your mid fields and your far fields. I tend to work on mid fields most of the time. I've set this up so it works with my hearing, my ear rolls. So when you buy this, you can follow through a kind of setup process that allows all of the different frequencies to be compensated for based on your own hearing. So obviously my ears are slightly older, I don't hear certain frequencies in a higher range as well as I did. I've also spent 25-30 years in front of loudspeakers, so I'm pretty sure my ears are probably not functioning as good as they could be, and this basically compensates for that and allows you to really kind of hear what other people are going to hear potentially, which helps with the mixing down process. So that's been really good. So that's it really for this project. Glad I'm wrapping it up. Really looking forward to seeing it happen in situ. Going to go see the show this weekend. See how the music fits. You can always make little tweaks afterwards, but don't tend to. Once commission's kind of done, it's done. And as long as they're happy with it, I'm happy with it. So I'll be back to some other projects, maybe my Dungeons and Dragons project. From here on out, I will do a little video of how I produce the tracks for distribution, etc., and then send them out. But for now, thank you very much.